Hello, folks. Welcome to Pro Trader Strategies. We are an educational company, so if you want an edge, you're in the right place because it starts with education. And finally, let's talk about hitting that subscribe button over there. If you want an education, hit that subscribe button. Also, there's a little bell right next to it that gives you a notification when I come on live. I might not do it on every scheduled time. It might be in the afternoon, especially during earnings season. I'm going to pop on here any given time and talk about trades that I find in the market. So make sure you get that notification so we can talk about that stuff. Hey, and comment over there on the side. I'm actually going to throw over a link for some webinars that I'm going to be doing tomorrow. We're going to be doing a webinar with a whole slew of traders and educators that you guys can find everything out from charting to trading options. So please check that link out over there and sign up for the Festival of Traders. There's, I think, maybe 5 or 6 of us going to be doing it. I'm kicking off at around 4 o'clock Eastern sometime there. So please check that out. Also, smash that like button for us. It does help us out. All right, it's a Monday. Usually, we don't have a whole lot of economic data to talk about, but today we've got a whole slew of economic data across the pond and here in the United States. Let's talk about Germany. They got the retail sales really knocking it out of the park. Last month came in at 4.2. They revised that up a little bit to 4.6. That's a pretty good reading. We were expecting that to pull off a little bit and come in around 2% this month. Well, it came in 4.2%. So that is strength in the economy that we were not expecting. So it should give a little bit of buoyancy here to the equities. On the flip side of that, we got Switzerland coming in a lot lower on their retail sales, but they're not going to be a major driver of the economy. We also got the final reading on the PMI numbers for the European region. Now, this is the manufacturing. We get the service sector a little bit later. Just know that all of these numbers came pretty close to in line with the original readings, not really much of a miss or a beat on those original numbers. So I'm not really going to dig into those. So let's talk about here in the United States, though. We did get our manufacturing PMI out of the ISM, which came in at 59. Now, remember, all of these PMI numbers came in above 50, so it is showing expansion. Nothing coming in below 50, which is a good thing here. We did miss on this ISM manufacturing number here in the United States, though, by 1 percentage point to the downside. But I think what most people are going to be looking at on a disappointment is the construction spending number. Month over month only increased by 0.1%. It was expected to increase by 0.4%. So that is a pretty decent miss for a construction spending number, probably causing a little bit of angst here for some of the manufacturing sector that we would see, because a lot of that manufacturing sector is going into this construction, right? ISM prices paid slower or lower than expected, 87.9. So that's a good thing to see. Not a ton of inflation there. Expected to be 85.7. Something we are starting to see here is a little weakness in the overall dollar. And weakness in the dollar should give a little bit of strength to some of these dollar-backed assets, but we're not really seeing that with crude oil. I think this is a product of some of these disappointing numbers coming out of Germany for the retail sales. That if they're not buying at the retail level, manufacturing is probably going to be a little bit more gun shy in these PMI numbers. Purchasing managers, because those are the folks that are buying the raw materials that go into the manufacturing process, right? They are looking at demand coming in and kind of trying to scale that up for the purchasing. Now, if they're seeing this construction numbers coming off or retail sales coming off a little bit, well, they're going to pull back on some of this manufacturing, okay? So crude oil seeing a little weakness. Bonds are moving higher by almost 1.5 points on the day. Remember, when interest rates go down, that's because the bonds are being supported or are going higher. They're inversely correlated, folks. Here, I like to talk about it as if it's a teeter-totter, and you can look at it however you really want, but I kind of look at it as the price. This is price going higher, right? As we see price going higher, then we see the interest rates going down. It's just like a teeter-totter like this. So right now we're seeing price go higher, and that means interest rates are going down. So when you hear the Fed talking about asset purchases, This is what they're talking about, folks. And I'm not sharing my screen, I bet. So I'm going to have to flip back over there. Let's get on to the bonds and share this screen. This is what I'm talking about when we have price go higher. So if I'm talking about price going higher here, then we see interest rates going down. So when you're hearing the Fed coming in talking about asset purchases, this is what they're talking about. They're coming in and buying bonds, 10 years, and interest rate products. That price goes higher, and then that means they're suppressing interest rates. So that's the whole levers and pulleys they're talking about here in this scenario. And then we can move on to Bitcoin. We're seeing a little bit of weakness here, which I would have thought with the dollar starting to weaken last week and into this week that we might see a little bit more strength in Bitcoin, but it's not really getting that much oomph on that type of lever and pulley in the market as of right now. It's going to be more people talking about Bitcoin. People are really starting to get concerned about their capital gains on some of these cryptocurrencies that they didn't really account for beforehand. So there could be some profit taking as people try to cover some of the Bitcoin that they haven't already covered because they have to come up with the capital in order to pay for the tax implications that they've incurred. VIX moving a little bit higher, despite the fact that we're seeing equities in positive territory across the board here. We can see the NASDAQ up 77, the Dow Jones Industrial Average up about 100, and the E-mini S&Ps at this point up about 15. Now, we are seeing some weakness throughout the day as the day goes on here in these markets. I think it's more so that we're seeing the volume start to suck out of this market a little bit sooner. It is a Monday, and usually we see some light volumes on Mondays, but we did get economic data, so that should help us spur a little bit of liquidity going on in these markets here. But we can see overnight, we got the German data point here. That's what really caused the market to come off a little bit. But ours was pretty benign, in line with expectations. Now, later on this week, we've got all kinds of other economic data. We got the service sector PMI for the United States. Now, keep in mind, the service sector is what we are concerned about here because we are more of a service sector economy, probably 70% versus manufacturing, a lot less than that. 20, 30, 20%, 25% there. Then with that said, what was I going to talk about here? Other than that, Hood, I wanted to talk about. Hood, something interesting about this, and a lot of these folks do this, but Hood getting a little bit of flashback here because they didn't allow some of their own traders to scalp this as it came out, while Vlad came out and sold over 7 million shares on the IPO in the next day or so following. So he's raised $250 million in selling some of his stock. A lot of people giving him a little bit of flack today because they weren't able to get out of some of theirs as quickly as he did. And the other thing is, I want to talk about, we've got Nike earnings coming out. I'm going to be looking at that one relatively closely. Probably the only one that I can find in the next couple of days that's really good. We do get BABA coming out tomorrow morning. CDW, I think, is coming out, DuPont, and Marathon. So there's quite a few of them that are coming out. Just nothing's really jumping out at me as exciting other than maybe Nike, because we're getting this nice little topping pattern going on here ahead of earnings. So that might be an opportunity. Plus, we've gotten some gaps higher on the last earnings. So expectations here are going to be pretty high coming into this. Now, I thought I saw Nike had earnings on there, but it looks like their earnings all of a sudden is far and away from that. I'm going to have to double check on that, but I was pretty sure I saw Nike come up on the earnings calendar. Anyway, I'll have to double check on this one now. I just went through an earnings calendar, scanned through that before we started getting on here. So I got pretty much all of the ones that I really want to pay attention to for this earnings season. Throw over there in the chat window if there's any earnings you want me to cover heading into that earnings and or post earnings to talk about. Throw it over there in the comment section. I'll circle back around and make sure I check everybody's comments over there and reply to anybody that needs any assistance whatsoever. So we'll be talking about that back and forth there too. But if you have an earnings, let me know. I'll try and cover that in these videos. I'm going to be trying to figure out what I did wrong here with Nike. I wrote that as, just a bear. Sorry, I had that written in line with my earnings. I only had this in as a bear setup. Sorry, got confused in my notes there. So no earnings in Nike, but a bear setup here. If you are looking for confirmation, obviously you want to see a doji tomorrow that confirms this topping pattern. As of right now, we got a gap higher. Earlier this morning, it was looking like a star at the top of a move. So when you get those star dojis, they call that a shooting star at the top of a move, and that is usually very bearish. That's what sparked me into writing this one down for like a swing type trade. So I'll be looking at that for a bearish move here. Probably dealing with low volatility here, as we can see. Expectations of volatility when a market starts rolling over, we traditionally think of that as causing the volatility to increase, which makes our premiums go up. So I've got some things I'm going to have to consider here for Nike before I start to put on this trade. But if I decide to put something on here, I will pop on later on this afternoon. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notifications. If you just subscribe, you're just going to get a notification that we did a video. If you hit the notifications button, you will know when we are going live if I start popping on here, all right? And comment, like I said, if you guys want me to cover any earnings, throw it over there. I'll be happy to look over there and check that stuff out. You don't even have to wait till the end of the video. You can do it at any time, and I will be trying to monitor that as we go. All right, that's about it. Other than, let me get ready, I guess. Got the shakes. If you can't smash that, take that. Bye for now.